because of the vastness of you know, the workings of a system that seems to be put in place that way. People believe that you know there's the resources for help out there, like in terms of legal aid, for instance. We think that getting a lawyer would help. However, the amount of how many lawyers refuse to help when it comes to, say, anything that's government funded, for instance. Well, say whether, you know, if you're taking account government funded, look at the tendencies, the tendency, um, residential tendencies and stuff like that. If it's, you know, has any government involvement, like a subsidy, in the case of BC Housing, which is, um, well, it's contracted by the tenancy board or the tenancy branch of the BC tenancy branch. So they're just contracted through them. And the tenancy branch, however, they kind of sublet off of places like this, which are actually a Chinese retirement home in Chinatown. So, you yeah, if you've ever heard of stories where inside a retirement home that the the old people are being you know mistreated and like abused and robbed and stuff like that. So essentially, it's because those people are really the most vulnerable people, especially when we're talking about the poorest of poor. Okay, poorest of poor, the most vulnerable. So now, what type of you know, what type of predator does that attract? What type of criminal? You have to imagine that this indeed is taking place. However, when the legal system, like class, or pro bono, or even legal aid, which legal aid gave me a file number or a case number, right? And a lawyer was supposed to pick it up, and unfortunately, the lawyer who picked it up, being class, they picked it up, and then they only turned it down, saying, "No, we can't help you." So it's like, excuse me. Legal aid said, "Yeah, we have a viable thing that I'm speaking on my common law partner, my spouse, Alice Burton's. We're common law, been almost a decade. Like, we talk every day on the phone. It's been a nightmare. I want her to come home, but she got framed by her parents who, perjuried on me before, even admitted it in an email and over the phone to Alice, which I am to be recording. And it seemed like they knew that, the conversation was between them and Alice because the language that was used was directed in a certain way that it seemed like they're talking directly to me, which they only did after 2 years. They waited a full 2 years, for a statute of limitations, which I'm pretty sure that I can appeal. I can appeal that statute. You very certain of this because in this time I've had to learn law. I've had to learn all of the government and how political law, not just medical law, because you have to understand medical science to be able to, wield political science uh, over the medical, which, yeah, uh, to understand, your nervous systems and your endocrine systems, your exocrine systems, your respiratory systems, your lymphatic systems, all of these type of things. Because nervous systems, you got your peripheral nervous system, your central nervous system, right? But also your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. So that's just for instance, because that all occurs within your bones. That then the messenger through an axon, hillock, the dendritic part of the nerve. It is essentially the nerve ending. It's how we feel and such. But yeah, knowing all this, so uh, get into it a bit later why I had to learn all of this, because I had received this notice to near relative informing me that my common law spouse, Alice Burton, was detained at the Royal Columbian, which when I went to go and visit, I had my visitation rights denied. So that was let down. My feet were hurting because of strange activity that was taking place at the apartment around that time. Now, what was taking place at the apartment? Well, I have these healing stones which I put underneath my feet that they lit up like light bulbs when the heat guns were being applied. Because after I finally had my feet checked by a physician, uh, he bandaged them up and put medicated cream on it and all that. And I had to, have it done every single day for about a week before I was allowed out of the hospital. But worst part is, before that even happened, uh, and the instant that I got my feet checked, I got a call saying that they need to remove my bed because of bed bugs. And it's like, Alice and myself have never made any claim of bed bugs. How would they even know that? They said they needed in because they thought that I had changed the locks. Well, no, the tip of my key broke off. I tried explaining that to them, and then they got a locksmith. That they charged to Alice and myself, uh, and she was still in hospital. I never got to visit her, even though I got a notice to relative. No, when I went to get my feet checked because of, as I described, with the heat guns and such, um, they actually it lured me into a room, sat me down, and said a physician would be with me shortly. I'm like, okay, great. As I waited, an angry woman came in. Hands on her hips, scowl on her face, angry as fuck, pardon the language, but like just burning eyes, staring right at me, like, like just, it seemed almost cartoon like, and didn't say nothing for good, maybe, I don't know, 12, 15 seconds. It seemed like forever. But then she just announced, you're under the Mental Health Act. So I didn't get my feet checked, which had lacerations on them from the injuries that had occurred that I videoed with, these little healing stones, which were, diamond quartz, right, herkimer, uh, which are actually worth something. Now, the thing is, they said they needed it. So, and the prime directive was they were going to remove the beds and replace it because they said there was bed bugs. And it's like, well, we didn't report it. How would you even know there's bed bugs? But if you're going to give us a new bed, whatever, right? So uh, we had to pay for the locksmith because they couldn't get in. You get what I'm saying? Now, almost immediately, when they had gotten, because it was only in that week's time when I was coming back home, and they could have waited, honestly, but they didn't. They were in such a rush. And according to the video that Alice's parents made, right, Allison Elizabeth Burton and Frank Warren Burton of 2971 Spurway Avenue, Colton, BC. All right. Yeah, them. So they made a video, which it looked like they had just trashed the place. And, you know, Warren, her dad, was the one making the video. It shows a camera and camera cages on the table, which, we actually had four of those cameras, and we had, four uh, cages, one for each in one size, which was standard DSLR, and as well larger D1 size for the dual battery handle grips on the Canon R mirrorless DSLRs, which we had assorted lenses, like big, heavy lenses. That's around about $3,500 each, but nothing like the Nikon Nikkor, which was an ED AFS VR 1.4. That's like perfect, perfect clarity in the light collection. So, yeah, that's listed at like about 1,500. Our business basically. So, where before the pandemic we were going to shows, recording the uh, live venues and stuff like that, and even had a YouTube, like MTV, like kind of like Much Music show called Radioactive Reports, where we got to know the bands. We made music videos of probably their best song or most memorable one, or one that we like the best that we record, because we would record every song that all the bands did, and would shoot first, ask questions later, meaning that we'll film you, and if you want the uh, footage, will talk to us, and it's already there. You don't have to really call ahead. We'll seek you out because you're friends. We're all friends. Especially if we like the music, we identify. We're like that. We're in there, and it's kind of a way of interacting, being a part of it. Because like if you play music or you want to be in a band, you want to be up there singing too with them. But that never happens. It's their show, and it's also by being a part of it, by acknowledging and sharing that. That's entertainment media, which it's an industry itself. Okay, now when we're talking about the music industry, the entertainment industry, and all that, which has taken some drastic hits over the past couple of decades, especially after the fall of Sony in the West, where warehouses were being shut down, and television broadcast wasn't producing the once was Jerry Seinfeld's and CD players and DVD players, all that type of stuff came to an end with the MP4s and MP3s and all that type of thing. So, because Sony as a uh, entity, it created the product to be used on their uh, systems, their their televisions and their stereos. The music that they signed sold the equipment, and the equipment also sold the music. So that's how our industry used to work. It changed, but still, I was booked 5 days solid for events that got all of a sudden terminated with the pandemic, which was a shame. So when we moved down to Vancouver to get away from parental abuse, because it had gone too well frightening. Okay, it was absolute terror. That Alice's parents' house, which they were not allowed to come around here. So when they got in, before the bed even got removed, because in the video they made where Warren's admiring his artwork that he did on the wall. I mean, he was trying to make it out like the walls were dirty or something, because they tried framing Alice as being unsanitary and some type of reasoning why she was in the hospital. But, you know, they actually came in and trashed the place. If you were to look at the video, um, it's not garbage. Those are all personal items that they had, uh, well, what do you call it? Staged, like staged photography, placed everything over the surface area of everything that they could, so it looked more like, and it actually looked staged that way, because you could tell that Alice's mom's been in there for a while. And when you take a look in the bedroom, even, like, it proves that, well, the bed's still there. Like, as soon as the locksmith opened the door, they came in. Well, that's what it seems like, because instead of the bed being taken immediately when the door got open, no, they came in. They were in there because of claims of trying to find her passport, because she no longer lived there, which seemed kind of strange, because, you know, BC Housing member had come all the way from here in Vancouver, like East Van, all the way to almost Coquitlam in New Westminster, right along that borderline, like not the Burnaby side, but the Coquitlam side, where Royal Columbian Hospital is in Sapperton. So that's pretty far, okay? Like, seriously, especially where it is, the type of traffic they have, most like most of the afternoon, like, that's probably, you know, quite the try on their behalf, because when they threatened Alice, saying that she was going to be evicted if she didn't sign off on her tenancy, which, you know, I doubt Alice even wrote in the date, so it was probably invalid, but considering the coercion involved would definitely make it invalid. But the thing is, when I had requested the information here about Alice and myself in our apartment at BC Housing, and this is up to date of September 6th, 2024. And take a little look here. You see it, right? Well, right here at the very end of this little long list of things is the move-in date, which here it says uh, 15th of October 2023. So the 15th, which we didn't actually move in on the 15th. We moved in, I believe, like 2nd or 1st of November. So, yeah, anyway, that's there. But when it says delete date, both parties here say nil. Okay? Nil. Meaning that Alice still technically lives here, and move reason as well, blank. Now, if that was withheld information, you would see a S.22, which you see here in the individual. What does that say? Yeah, in the individual brackets. Can't quite see that. What is that? Individual ID. Okay, yeah, individual ID. So my ID shows, but hers is S22, meaning section 22, meaning that it's just like over here, uh, income and all that type of stuff, S22. That would be the withheld information. Having it say null, just, it simply means that goes for both of us. Okay, we're both as null, meaning that there is no deletion date at all, meaning that technically Alice still lives here. Okay. Now, be, when when Alice's parents had come in before the said to be mattress was to be removed, they trashed the place. In fact, in the video, after Warren was admiring the artwork that he dirtied up the wall with, which I've since cleaned. Okay, well, I've since cleaned. I know there's garbage, but whatever. It's mainly recyclables. Guy doesn't like me having recyclables on the ground, as I seen in a damage report, which followed when I was asking about this type of information, which I had to request through the Freedom of Information Act, and that took, you know, that took a long time actually. I took more than the 1 month because I'd only received it recently, which it was about halfway into the month when it was on the 21st. I should have got of September, right? So almost twice the amount of time. And I had to go down to Orange Hall to remind them, and it seemed like that very day, just later, I'd received it in mail. So, yeah, I'm just getting this information out. Technically, Alice still lives here, and she's allowed to come home from the hospital to live here. But the Beast Housing people who had let Alice's parents in, trashing the place to frame her, when they were taking out the bed, the people that were removing the bed, which if it was the bedbug people, which right here, ironically it says apprehend. Okay, ironically it says apprehend bedbug treatment notes, apprehend. So if those were the people who were involved with the numerous thefts of our stuff, like just stuff that was sentimental, stuff that we can't procure a uh, receipt of, but could probably provide photographs of because they were in our possession, like say the Nikon ED lens that was a 1.4, like that's extreme resolution for a VR lens, right? It's the best. So when we're talking about that being a $15,000 lens, like we want the items back, meaning we're not looking for the cash value. It's just everything that we could prove that they had taken, and this includes jewelry too. Okay, like we have photos of jewelry and stuff like that that's gone missing from here, taken like jewels and such, like rubies and like you know. But there are things that we could only describe from memory, like my grandmother's pearls, for instance, or Alice's you know, mother of pearl binoculars. They're like theater balcony binoculars, right? They're beautiful, like Victorian. Uh, don't believe we have photographs of that. Maybe one, possibly, that I think maybe could pull up out of a video if it's available in one of the Google Drives. But yeah, lots of items that we didn't think that we should take photographs of everything that we had. We didn't suspect that these type of people like existed, but this being the poorest of the poor neighborhoods, like East Van, like poorest of the poor, right? We're talking a retirement home in Chinatown. Okay, of course, they seen this as the most vulnerable place that they could get a job to be able to get away with this type of stuff, and that's what makes them truly criminals. And criminal is criminal in the eye of the court, and The judge should not, allow them to hide behind a company like BC Housing, which is only contracted to sublet from the tenancy branch, which that essentially is a government subsidy, uh, you know thing that BC Housing is, because the tenancy branch not only covers the government subsidy, but all of the other rentals as well, like the normal rentals, like the places that you would never hear of this type of stuff. It's just unthinkable, It's and for the most part, yeah, like that's just it. You know, we never thought this type of thing would happen. But here it is, plain as day, that she still lives here apparently. And the date on this is September 6th, 2024. So as recently as it could be. So, um, and if they try changing it around, it's. And thing is, though, here is a list of before tax items from Long McQuaid, which went missing as well. Uh, Ironically, it continued to happen since I even got home. Like when I got home and seen the place was all cleared out, like someone had ransacked it. Uh, you know, I was very disheartened. But items continued to go missing as I was living there. People were still coming in and taking things like designer uh, designer bags, not purses, so to say, but I always lost a few of them. Got nice ones too, because of what I won in a game show. The what do you call it? Canadian Idol got a image contract, so I produce commercials and whatnot for the fashion industry because that's my involvement, and we get good deals on like last year's stuff where we'll make a commercial for the end of the season half off price, whereas last year's stuff, because last year it's just as much as you'd buy anything normally for, right? And when we're talking about paying about $200 for a pair of Nikes, right? That's probably about normal, yeah. So no, it's just the same, but we get certain brands because of an image contract. Whereas Sony, it fell apart, and you I'm just doing it mainly as a labor of love, but because we get the last year's stuff with factory clearance, it's like just kind of dump it off. Like bought a pair of sunglasses for $100 Louis Vuitton, which were from 2018, right? So it's very dated. It's what they don't want in the factory, because fashion sells by the season. The newest of the season is what everyone who's fashionable wants, because that's the culture. That's yeah, a world culture. That was social class, so to say. So um, yeah, we do have our place, even in the poorest of town. It's just we were suffering from the pandemic, where we tried escaping from Munchausen syndrome by proxies. Okay. Alice wanted to get away from her abusive parents at that time, and we got lied about and caught in Golden on our way to Alberta, where they had described me as what they told us, a predator. But we could only imagine what type of story they had told the RCMP, which they have not cleared my name about. The RCMP still probably have that come up every time they run my name, what they said, their description, because it was like an Amber Alert. They airlift helicoptered Alice to a hospital, like she was saying, they have Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which it's not just them, it's the medical professionals themselves have Munchausen syndrome by proxy because they injure the patients, they injure the clients, uh, so clients return to be treated for what they got injured. And how they're doing that is anticholinergics. Anticholinergics is basically an opiate. Okay, it stops your vitamin uptake by uh, you know its function. It's just stops it. That's why it's anti. Cholinergic means like a vitamin, um, which when talking about vitamin B3, for instance, cigarettes, right? Nicotine. We're talking about that nicotinic acid, that nicotinamide, that niacin, right? That oxygenized niacin, which is nicotine. It's vitamin B3. It's a vital vitamin, and it has to do with our nerves and how our nerves connect to our immune system. How that's tied in has got to do with well our white blood cells. Okay, our neutrophils and our lymphocytes, the macrophage, all these these stages of our stem cell, which mainly accumulate within the bone marrow before the stage of erythrocytes, which is a red blood cell, which comes out. Essentially, when you don't have white blood cells to be able to go on to the red blood cell stage, because it's all a stem cell progression that lasts about 5 days, and that's why if you have a cold or a flu or anything like that, usually your immune system will eliminate that while you sleep in an 8-hour cycle. That's why you need 8 hours of sleep each night, is so you continually wake up healthy. Like healthy is in your immune system healthy, okay, your nervous system healthy. That's why 8 hours is a mandatory thing. Now, yeah, everyone should have this type of knowledge. Everyone should be taught medical science and taught it correctly, because when the weaponized words like addiction and such, when we're talking about vitamin deficiency and people are saying it's drug withdrawal, there's a major problem. But when it's anticholinergics, like a heroin withdrawal, like type of thing, that is not healthy. That's essentially all of a sudden your body realizing how depleted your immune system has become, because when you are on the anticholinergic, then your body seems to be deadened to the point where it's kind of in tune with your compromised immune system. Now, the thing is, when you're talking about a compromised immune system, then your immune system can't fight a neoplasm. So a neoplasm takes over, and that's how they induce cancer, is by using anticholinergics. Anticholinergics are not just opiates and opioids, okay? They are also anti-Parkinson's and anti-convulsants, antidepressants, antihistamines, antipsychotics. Uh, but the antipsychotics and the antidepressants actually cause uh, hallucinations and delirium. These are all delirium-causing medications that, because they, stop your vitamin uptake and screw up your nervous system, because your nervous system, through your lymphatic system, is connected uh, just kind of pre-endocrine, because still the hormones flow through your metabolics of your respiratory system once the erythrocytes have been released from the white blood cell stage of your immune system, which feeds your nerves, your dendritic, axon, hillox, and the actual nerve that allows you to feel and allows you to touch allows you to, like move your uh, hand or arm through uh, kind of tension and release. It's part of the three gated uh, nervous reactions of our sodium calcium reactions, which is why our neurotransmitters they react, and every time they react, a part of it kind of breaks off, and when it breaks down to the sodium and calcium, or the potassium calcium, which potassium sodium, the sodium nitrate, calcium nitrate, all of these different electrical signal reactions, they all have different gated voltages for different intensities. And this is how complex uh, our immune and nervous system actually is, from our bones and our marrow, and how we heal and whatnot. So just understand the anticholinergics stop the ability of that type of thing. That's why they have to go, okay? They're inducing illness on people, calling it schizophrenia when it's, you know, induced illness from the medication that they're adhering. And the thing is, people will die of it. They doing the clostridium shovel, or they'll just choke on food because they can't chew, like, don't know how to, because that's how bad it is when your nervous system gets ripped out and you have no immune system. Okay, no immune system means, yeah, people develop cancer. Okay, which smoking does not do. In fact, because smoking has nicotine, it actually prevents cancer. It's the quitting of smoking, and usually that type of initiative coming from an outside source, saying, "Oh, you gotta quit smoking. It's bad for blah 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 blah." They're probably also giving you some, delirium-causing medication, some anticholinergic, which then after you quit smoking, right, and you get cancer like a year later, uh, these medics that conned you into quitting smoking try and tell you that it'd been even worse if you continued smoking, but no, it wouldn't have happened at all. That's just it. You see? Studies on vitamin B3 have proven. And when we're talking about vitamin C, for instance, we're talking about like limonene being a terpene, which is like citric or citrus, which you may not call ascorbic acid, which you see as vitamin C, but we always associated citric and citrus as being vitamin C's as well. When we're looking at vitamin B1, B2, B3, B4, like B9 is folate. And well, when we're talking about folate in your metabolic systems, we have the uh, methylation and folate cycles of our six mediated one carbon metabolism, which it essentially is the assembly of our hormones through our metabolics, our vitamins that we break down, that we get from the food that we digest. Because when we digest food in our stomach, it essentially is separating the vitamins from the waste product, which we, uh, you know, uh, put into our colons and such, kind of ferments there, and we refer to it as a living oxygen species, a living oxygen species, because essentially, yeah, it gives off oxygen, which um, this is why fungus likes poop, is because fungus breathes in oxygen as well. That's what loves that, and the bacteria as well, because bacteria is essentially what fungal growth always has to feed off of, and the bacteria always is formed by radiation. Thereby, when the salting of the earth from the Egyptian irrigations, which caused the sands of Africa and the climate, crisis that we see, because the sand, is not fertile anymore. It has no radiation, no fungal, no organic. It's not growable, which, again, because of the salts, which, that neutralize the radiation. Salt will, sterilize basically any wound. However, because of sodium calcium reaction, it's like getting struck by lightning because salt in the wound really, it fires all of your nerves at high voltage. Okay, that's what all that pain is about. So essentially, yeah, something that if you really want to live and you don't want to lose a leg or something, and you got shot or something, you can't go to a hospital. Well, put salt in that because of POTUS. Now, when we talk about the President of the United States being POTUS, understanding what POTUS is when we're talking about uh, cleaning a wound with, say, maggots, which will only eat the dead flesh and not the living, and using the leeches. This is the old medical of like Latin knowledge, which dates back. Now, the leeches will give an anesthetic to it and will clean up, like blood, and it'll cause it to be a thinner blood as well. So, so there's no clots. But yeah, these different methods, they're time tested and true. Now, yes, I'm just letting you know, I know this because this is why I describe the anticholinergics. Well, for the POTUS, if you must know, it's like bread and yogurt and salt, and that essentially helps the immune system because yeah, the yogurt and the salt, that's your sodium calcium reactions, which you're putting on there with the bread, which you know it's a POTUS. It's the bread soaks up the pus, and it's how you keep it clean, and you heal it. That was some very old POTUS. Okay, that was very old POTUS. So, and every president of the United States should, if they're going by the name POTUS, should know so much medical knowledge that they can describe this philosophy of indoctrination because a PhD is Doctor of Philosophy. It's not PH like pH levels, which we should all know. Which again, basic education. This is how we overcome the mass genocide which has been taking place, where we see 130 some odd million deaths by HIV. Now, HIV, usually you die from an infection or anything like anything. So just HIV alone would be the 130 million count. Whereas cancer, which you have to have a compromised immune system, hence HIV, to even get cancer. So you basically have to already have HIV to be able to get cancer because you have to have a compromised immune system. HIV means compromised immune system. So this is all induced by anticholinergics because the only way you get a compromised immune system is if you are not receiving your vitamins. It's the uptake of your vitamins have been blocked somehow, meaning that we can go on having all of our hormones as young as we were when we were a teenager and we had raging hormones and all that type of stuff. Well, yeah, fertility, it still is in us so long as our system is, healthy. That means fitness. That means making sure that you get your vitamins and you're able to uptake them and such. So essentially look at it that way, okay? That's perpetual youth now. So, yeah, I do move for the abolishment of the hospital system, because it shouldn't be taking all our money like this, especially when they are injuring people with the treatments that they're giving them, meaning Munchausen syndrome by proxy. But at the same note, seeing as you know, the pest control people um, seem to be placing the pests, like when it comes to mice, into the apartment through um, the heat vent thing and the um, maintenance crawl space, which I couldn't imagine as being all that large, but if maintenance can get in there, sliding around on a skateboard on their back, right? Well, essentially, there is enough room for that, and it is needed because of the water heating here. Because if the pipes were to ever break, they have to be able to get in there, and that's in between each floor. Now, why point that out was because of those uh, healing stones that I told you about that were lighting up like light bulbs with heat gun activity, and I had a injured foot which went a month and a half unchecked after being in RCH when I came to visit Alice, and as I said. Right when I finally got a physician to look at, and he confirmed, and because I was in pain the entire time, like I was basically tortured. It was not cool, and seriously, right? Um, that entire time they had taken my glasses because they had a camera ability, and they mangled them. It's like they tried ripping out all the wires, and so it didn't work. And it's not like I had any way of powering it up either. So they're unusually cruel, especially when I heard of the right to refuse, which, yeah, like that's Nuremberg Codex. And as well, it even says in the Form 5, Section 3, second page, I suppose, pamphlet, that a patient reserves right to refuse. But as well, it says in this Form 5 pamphlet, let's call it, um, it says that if a patient were to refuse, that they would have their consent given by the director giving authority to the physician, which, if it says physician, it should actually mean physician, not psychiatrist, for instance, because a physician is not a pharmacist, is not a radiologist. It's a physician, not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Psychologist, anyway. Now what we're getting the educators involved. Like in terms of psychology, there is nothing medical about it. It's purely educational because in psychology you learn things. You learn about yourself. You learn, like say, anger management classes, if which could relate to anxiety. Dealing with which, if you were to count to 10 in your head, just take a time out and even do some breathing exercises. That is teaching someone psychology, how to kind of manipulate the workings of your mind. So for the benefit, not some negative like gaslighting, where the gaslight would be like if say a nurse was being rude to people, and then someone was to point out, what's with your attitude, like you don't have to be so mean, and they turn that around and say that you're being rude to them for saying that type of thing. So it's like, wait a minute, just pointing out that's a by proxy abuse. Now, when talking about by proxy abuse, when I had gotten, when I had asked numerous times about um, our stuff, right, and as well Alice coming home because the hospital keeps saying that the BCOs and keep saying that she's not allowed back. Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's because they robbed us of like almost all of our stuff. In fact, I went out when I'd come home, right, and they already cleaned out a bunch of stuff. When I came home, there was still the bags, still the music effects. These effects here from Long McQuaid, uh, they're still here because I went out to buy the batteries for them. I want to play some music. Uh, one of my guitars had been stolen, the white one, but I still have the green one. The white one actually says right here was about $6,000, 5,299 and 99 cents before tax. After tax, yes, that's about $6,000. Let's show you right about there. You could see it. Oh no, where would the hell would that? Well, so essentially, yeah, we're talking about 6,000. Well, that's grand theft over 5,000 right there in one item. Okay, but my request through the court system was for them to return all of the items because essentially I have a feeling that they have it in the storage. They have it all in the storage right now, and they were just waiting for the statute of limitations to run out. That way they could then unload it because I believe they still have it all. You know, I actually do. So, yeah, that's so I believe they actually have it all in storage. So the reason is because, yeah, statute of limitations, like they're waiting an entire year to go by before, because if they were to just start selling it right away, then obviously that would, you know, red flag. But as I said, when I came home, I still had items here because I had gone and bought the 9-volt batteries for the effects pedals, which when I came home, then they're gone. Right, a few bags were gone, more clothes kind of vanished. A couple jackets, a whole lot kind of gone at one time. Then the next day, again, knock at the door. These guys show up and they told me that they're here for the rest of the clothes. I'm like, hold on, no. You're supposed to give back all the stuff that you had taken, please. And then they kind of looked at each other, shrugged, and told me that they were going to go and speak to their manager and then get back to me, which they never got back to me. And when I was told that there was going to be a BC housing investigation, okay, I was given a case number which apparently had nothing to do with the RCMP or nothing to do with Vancouver Police because it was too short of a number, but it was the number that was quoted to me by I believe his name was Kerpel of Orange Hall, which he informed me that Alice was still at the time the primary tenant leaseholder, which would coincide with the fact that here, September 6, 2024, it says that she has not moved out. It says delete date, no. So same with me, it says no, meaning that there has been no delete dates. And as well, move reason, it actually does not say anything for move reason for either of us. However, individual ID, let's take a look here. It says S.22. So that would be information that they are covering up, which they didn't want to divulge, meaning that the null and blank are indicators that it's not information that is being covered up or withheld in any way. It is the information that neither of us have moved or delete dated, meaning that we have not terminated our say here, which I'm here, which, like she can come back, right? But apparently, every time the hospital calls the BC Housing in regards to this, that the BC Housing who stole all of our items, like, well, not all of it, but most of it. Like I said, I was here when they were still taking stuff, right? Like, and anyway, how I'm so certain about having proof that Alice's parents, when they came in as the first people, where it wasn't even the bed being removed, which I was informed was the reason why they needed into the apartment in the first place, was because claim of bed bugs, which neither Alice or myself ever made any claim of bed bugs. That her abusive parents, who were not to come around here at all, were the first ones in before even they took any thing. So, but because of the paper slippers, and it looked like Alice's mom had been working at it for hours, I guess. But in the bedroom, we see the mattress, meaning that they were the first ones there. That they trashed the place looking for her passport, where they said that she had, you know, terminated her tenancy there, which was on grounds of being unsanitary, which they wouldn't have even gotten any of that information if they had not gotten in, because they needed a locksmith because the tip of my key had broken off and they thought that I changed the locks. So essentially, yeah, seems like a collusion of a scam taking place, because you I was just coming home within that week, and for them to the BCOs and stuff removal people showing up at the door saying that they're here for the clothing, and when I requested the stuff to be returned, they didn't, which uh, obviously, like, they should have, because essentially BC Housing would be responsible for them and their involvement, so it falls onto them. So I want all of our items returned, because there are items that we just cannot replace, and we're not looking for a monetary a payout for our items, because it exceeds the 35 grand, which they are going to pay out, which should actually go towards the hours lost from our business that they stole, because the cameras were live event documentation, like wedding photography and such. So, stricken to poverty because can't work when they stole our business, right? No point in going to shows without the cameras either. Okay, can't exactly be a part of the network scene when uh, they just want to sell it for cheap, like like what, $500 a camera, and they're $5,000 cameras. Like, think about it. Absolutely no respect. They're uh, predators that seen a vulnerable situation where like BCOs and subletting the uh, spare units of this building, which is actually a Chinese retirement home in East Vancouver. Which you'd think the most vulnerable people are the old people who are immigrants who like they speak another language, man, and they're like old, like like poor, right? They're very poor. So it's very sad that it, uh, the job of being involved with these type of buildings that the people are actually, you know, criminals that job seeked a job that provided them enough vulnerable to line their pockets with, because they didn't think that we had the capacity to be able to figure out what they were doing or what was going on. But essentially, they continue to disallow Alice to come home from the hospital, where I'd made the request in March when I myself had, gotten a review panel hearing, which, it went smashingly, especially when the doctor was caught lying about the effects of the medication to the panel of judges, which essentially, well, that was that. I also had a job lined up for tugboat chef that I didn't want to jeopardize, because if I was going on this trip, that I would miss their anticholinergic treatment, which really didn't like, because I was experiencing side effects, which the doctor either it was a language barrier, was in another fantasy world and didn't hear a word that I said, or knew exactly what I was talking about and continued shoving this stuff into me when I didn't want it, which goes against Nuremberg Codex. Anyway, yeah, so I got off of extended leave. That was that. Since I came to visit Alice, so then I tried having it so she could come home here, and the BC housing guy said yes, she can re-sign on to, paying and all this type of stuff. Which, according to this, she has never signed off. Okay, so yeah, let's um, let's take a moment to recognize that for all it's worth. Because after all, I've seen how much a single person gets, and it's supposed to be around 1,400, and I'm only receiving about you know in my deposit about is it 900 or 800? I guess about 900 and uh, 60, 970 around there, 970, I believe. So 970. So 970 out of the 14, which is supposed to be getting, meaning that's um, paying about 430, which I was told is actually supposed to be 330, but there seems to be an extra 100 on there. But when I had gotten, uh, when I kept asking about the stuff, our investigation and such, uh, I also requested that the toilet gets unplugged. So when the guy had come over, I thought was to unplug the toilet. He was enraged. He was just angry about everything. Like he even in a letter said that the apartment had a bad odor, which was because of the toilet. I'd requested that it get fixed, because when they stole our stuff, they took our plunger as well. Okay, which was really screwed up. But we already got a uh, yearly inspection, condition inspection report, damage report, basically, which was, as you see, mainly all ones. I got two on flooring because of clutter, which, that's, we're allowed to have stuff. So paint was a two, too. I suppose that was because it just needs to be cleaned, obviously, which unfortunately, when you don't have contact lenses in, you don't see that well. But here it is, fully dated. He got me to sign saying that it was a witnessing of, which, like, I have to witness. However, when this guy, who, I never seen before, Merritt, he wrote a damage report from 1 to 4 as basically almost all 3s and 4s. Would you believe it? Like, he was basically saying that this apartment was completely demolished and needed, total renovations, which that's unacceptable because no, this apartment is fine. Uh, Besides the garbage being full of, you can see, yeah, look, no fan, okay? Which again, here, it says right here, NA. In the first inspection report, damage report, right? That it was NA. Here, it clearly says 2. The 2 kind of covered, there's a big 2 from the fridge, right, saying the fridge is damaged, but the fan is the 2 underneath that other 2 right below the stove being a 4. Tried saying that there was wires ripped out and the stove didn't work anymore. Describing it as a 4 means that it is totally trash, doesn't work. In fact, I'd gotten a letter following this that had described it as needing such repair and replacement that I have to pay for the expenses of. So when he described anything as a 4, that would mean I'd have to pay for it. So toilet bowl tank, right? So what? The toilet was chipped, or no? It was backed up, which wasn't really my fault. It had some. It was faulty that way. But here it says common items, being the living room here. The paint was a 4. Now, 4 would imagine as being spray paint vandalism, okay? Like totally like off the wall, horrible. Which I don't see it much as a problem. Like there isn't even any chips, or I haven't even hung any pictures because I didn't want to put holes in the wall. Okay, that's why you see the pictures just kind of like stuck on certain things, like sitting on tables and all that. It's not actually nailed to the wall. The walls have no holes. I've made no holes at all. We have not hung anything on the walls, not even with thumbtacks. So essentially, yeah. So all of these 3s and 4s, doors in the closet, 3, right? Fixtures, outlets, 3. He's saying that all our, uh, you know, sockets, our plug-in sockets are broken, right? That's by saying 3. Like you gotta remember, 4 is the worst condition. That's what you would write if there was a kitchen fire and the cupboards had burned, okay, and were had to be replaced. Which here, let's take a look at what he says. Cupboards were. Um, Here it says cupboards, drawers were 3. So uh, that would mean, yeah, severely damaged. Okay, like whereas a kitchen fire that they're all cinders and just burnt, there's like barely no wood at all. That would get a 4. Chewed on by a Rottweiler, and but still functional. Like they would pull in and out, but they're all chewed apart and like chipped, and that essentially would be a 3 because it's not just burned cinders like the worst it could be, which would be a 4. Like you described the stove as being, telling me that I had to pay for the cost, which stove works fine. I don't know what he's talking about. Like what wires? Like is that like the fan that he hallucinated? Like there is no fan. How could it be damaged? But still, like it's on a record. Which the problem is, if I were to try and get housing anywhere else, and they were to find that my unit was damaged like this, right? Think about it. They would never, ever, ever rent to me. I would never see the light of day that I would have a roof over my head ever again. This is the truth, and the truth is that Skid Row, life on the street—that's a death sentence. Okay, like the mortality rate there is like people dying every single day. It's like an inevitable thing. but they're all also on the anticholinergics, which, the, some of the worst anticholinergics for causing a granulocytosis would be clozapine, which was banned in Europe in 1970s, but Alice happens to have a prescription for, which, me knowing that, it's very, very dangerous stuff that she should not be taking. The doctors refused to acknowledge me, even though I was the one who received the notification to a near relative here. Which I'm supposed to be the one who talks to the doctors, not her parents, who they perjury lied and made up a whole bunch of stuff about her, describing her by everything they hate, trying to say that she was unsanitary when they actually destroyed her Facebook and destroyed her Aunt Nancy's Facebook, which, because she made a comment on Facebook, social media, uh, after she was informed that her Aunt Nancy had died, is the reason why she went over to her parents' house that night. And, we didn't have any more Nicorette here. She was, stressed out about, her favorite aunt dying, her favorite aunt from Colorado, which she loved very much. And she went over there to mourn, but her parents, psychotically turned on her, uh, caused an argument, gaslighting her about a comment made on Facebook, like, what are they doing, like stalking her every, social media, like, detail, like, for them to be so critical. Like her Facebook itself got destroyed, as well as Nancy Hart's Facebook no longer exists. Okay, um, this is a fact that then they made up a whopping story, just like they did about me when we were in Golden, and it caused the RCMP to absolutely hate me so bad. They made up whatever they could to impound my car and pull me over, saying I was speeding when not really the case at all. Like, going like 60 in a 50 zone on an off ramp or something like that wasn't very speedy, especially considering that getting pulled over doing 70 in a 60 zone. I wasn't sure if it was 60 or 80. Like, it was a highway, and I sped up to 70 because I had these headlights coming up on me, and I thought, oh, I must not be going fast enough, which still wasn't doing 80 in the 60 zone, only doing 70, which, like, think about it. Like, these type of pullovers where a car gets impounded when I was just moments away from the hotel I was staying because nowhere was renting during the pandemic, that I had to spend my money in hotels until I had no money because uh, when I was going to move into Alice's friend Amber's place, with Alice moving in with me as well. We were going to live with her friend Amber. Her ex boyfriend, who she had a kid with, her kid Enzo with, named Claudio, had ransacked my possessions, my overnight bag that I had, and stole stuff from me, and uh, there was an argument and a bit of a fight where he pulled a knife and stuff like that, and just kind of hid out at a hotel in Burnaby with a friend of Amber's. It's like had a French husband at home. Like, we're just kind of hanging out there because it's like pandemic, all this type of weird stuff, and like the scare of Amber. So, and I already paid Amber for the rent there, so like I want to go back with and live with Alice with Amber, but her Amber's boyfriend was too dangerous. So essentially, that's what led the whole cycle of eventually living at Alice's parents' house, which was a nightmare because they were just, just that way, where they would describe me as some predator, as they put it, where I got charged with exploitation and such, which, charges eventually dropped, but not until I'd lost my license, which when I got charged in not New Westminster, but Maple Ridge in May, that there was double jeopardy. I ended up getting a 8-month suspension, then a 1 year suspension, another two 1 year suspensions at once, and then they, after paying the ticket because I didn't have phones, because my phones and laptop got taken as, and my cameras as well, as proceeds of crime, and I had to buy new cameras, which I did at the Abbotsford uh, London Drugs at Seven Oaks Mall, which, I was told to get receipts from that from the head office, but I'll have to procure that still within these coming days. But I was, like the actual receipts that we kept were some of the items that were stolen when they had cleared out so much of our stuff on claims that Alice no longer lived here, when in fact, according to these records, as of September 6, 2024, she still lives here, because no delete date. It says nil for both of us. No, meaning, like, good for the goose, good for the gander. No move reason at all, so it never occurred. Meaning that, she's still technically allowed here, even though they took our stuff and are trying to say she's not allowed back. Like, since March, she could have been back, but now that's an additional 7 months, which, you only get 6 months in jail for assault. Okay, which, that's still, she never assaulted anyone. In fact, when I had been asking about the stuff, and then I, tried mentioning something about this, what do you call it, the damage report, which the date isn't even filled out right. It's 08/blank/2024, meaning 8th day of could be any given month. And when he got me to sign it, I thought that was a witnessing, because that's all I was told that was previously, when the original yearly inspection had occurred. Then they tried saying that the signature meant that I agreed with his report, when he actually threatened me with eviction if I didn't sign it, which I thought was just a witnessing. So, yeah, major problem. Major problem. Okay? Because after I had, gotten this, I had then gotten a letter from BC Housing saying that the tenant rent report, December 1st, 2024 to November 30th, 2025, that rent would be increased to $453.00, which, again, that is definitely more than the 3%, considering, they're pulling that up. But, right after that August the 13th letter, then I receive a August the 27th letter, which, because I tried, getting my toilet fixed again by asking, like, well, it's been a month since you came in and seen it, and like, made such a horrible report about it. Complaining about small room. So he refused to, fix the toilet. Then a month later, right, almost a month later, I get this letter, but it was more than a month later before I actually got it repaired. Now it says final warning: breach material term and tenancy agreement. 16 repairs, right? It says 16 repairs. It's like what? Yeah, because of the damage report that's we got. So saying personal items, food scraps, garbage scattered all throughout the unit's floor. Debris and animal waste were found splattered all over the toilet and flooring all around the toilet. So animal waste, we don't have pets. Like if he's imagine like he's basically saying that there's either cat litter that got spilt everywhere, like which would be reasonable, but we don't have a cat. Would it be like a dog poo? Like like is he saying it's on top of the toilet? Like there was poop in the toilet. That's why I was trying to get him to fix the toilet. But anyway, so weaponized delirium here. Like that's what it is. Kitchen and sink area full of cigarette butts, dirty containers and grind. Well, you know, um, drinking cups are dirty containers, which they go in the sink. There was an ashtray that was placed in the sink that it wasn't like wet or anything. It's just there, was a bit of an ashtray fire. Like there's like a smoke and all that. So put in the sink and put a bit of water on it to die off, and it had shattered. So, but it was still like not in the drain. It was kind of aside. So anyway, again, making a big deal out of nothing, But here it says one of the receptacles was found dismounted from the wall. Well, that was because of the TELUS cable hookup, which had happened in March, but I've been waiting for him to come back because the TV didn't work, and I finally got that sorted out just as of recently before the election. So essentially, it says the stove oven top cover was open and wires were exposed and damaged. Okay, so he's saying there was wires exposed and damaged and all this stuff. No, the stove works perfectly fine, but here it says 16 repairs, right? Yeah, that's how bad he wrote the damage report. Like I said, the cupboards, the walls, floor, all is damaged. So tenants maintain reasonable health and cleanliness and sanitary standards throughout. Well, talking about animal poop all over the toilet, like come on. Tenant does not comply with the above obligations within reasonable time. Landlord may discuss matter. Well, I didn't really clean up anything because there's nothing to clean up and there's no damage. It's not like I repaired anything. So let's flip this over. Now, landlord in the rental unit or residential property. So, yeah, when we're talking about a landlord in the rental unit, someone actually owns this unit. Okay, it's not BC Housing. Okay, but like I said, someone actually owns this unit. So, um, uh, unsafe condition, fault, or deficiency in residential property service, including without limitation, leaking water, non-operating smoke detectors. Yeah, the smoke detectors work fine, and the water works fine too. In this damage report, he had included that the heat and hot water was too, meaning like damaged, and smoke detector too, like it was damaged. Here in the letter, it's like giving me a hard time about it being damaged when no. And then it says here, Connor, we have not seen any in you decluttering and cleaning your unit since receiving the warning letters. So what? They're watching? Do they have a camera in here? What exactly are they saying? Because no, I didn't have to clean up or anything because my unit, well, it's the cleanest unit in the entire building. Right now, I admit it's probably the most messy it's ever been because I spread some laundry on the floor for carpeting, basically, because, like, I've been sleeping on the floor, considering that the pest people came in and sprayed bug pheromone on the corner of my mattress, and then said that they were taking my mattress, and I questioned, well, are you replacing it? Then they never came for the mattress. So, just sleeping on the floor, like, took some laundry and jackets and propped it up so I have some type of pillowing because, like, they sprayed bug pheromone on my fucking bed. Pardon language. They sprayed bug pheromone on my bed, and like, I don't want to experience, you know, that type of bug thing. So, essentially, I know to get some peppermint oil. Peppermint oil would essentially, detract them from the bug pheromone, which you can visually see they sprayed. And I remember watching them spray something on my bed when they flipped open the mattress, looked under. Nothing was there. Nothing was there at all. Like, like, this is what I mean. When they claimed that I had bed bugs, when none of us had made any claim of it, to get into the apartment where they weren't the first ones in to take the bed like they claimed why they needed in. They had let Alice's parents, which were not to come here because we had gotten the place on grounds of escaping abuse. It was a refuge where her parents were not to come around here, but they trashed the apartment because even in the video, it shows her dad like smashing a bunch of picture frames in the video, or their stack of plates, probably both, who knows, or glass coffee table, probably smashed them right onto that. It was a big crash. Like, like the video actually shows a guy like continuing to smash everything. And when you look into the bedroom, you see the bed still there, okay? But you also see a chair that's flipped upside down. And it looked like they had staged everything to cover surface area because if you take a look at the items, they're personal items. It's all personal items. There is no garbage. There was one empty carton of milk they had thrown in there, like staged, but otherwise it was all personal items. So, yeah, staged because they already had come over to the hospital before even getting into the apartment to be able to see if it was unsanitary. They went over there threatening her that she was to be evicted if she didn't sign an tenancy, which I don't believe she dated it because according to this, as recent as September 6, 2024, she is still a tenant here. She, it says right here, reason to leave, there is none, just like me. As well as it says null for both of us in regards to delete date, meaning not deleted, it's still current. And they're not letting her come home from the hospital saying that she's not allowed here because, yeah, they stole all her stuff and they turned around trying to frame me with a damage report that essentially said that, like, and it wasn't dated properly either, which, their damage report says it was so bad that I get this letter that, says that there's 16 repairs, which, again, when I went to go and complain about that, okay, I get this second letter, and the complaint came two ways. Where I wrote to the complaint resolutions, which did not acknowledge anything I said. Instead, they took things out of context and saying here, breach of material term of your tenancy, 22, conduct, right? Conduct, excuse me. I was bringing up like what type of lies this was, like, the hallucinated fan and saying that there's animal poo and on top of the toilet, not in the toilet, but on top of it. So be advised, BC Housing employees have a right to work and live in an environment that is free from intimidation and threatening behaviors. Well, for one thing, like I was not threatening them. In fact, by telling them, like, like this is criminal, like you're going to jail for fraud, right? That type thing, or getting deported. So here it says, I'm writing to address the recent involved aggressive behavior towards your site staff. Unacceptable breach of tenancy agreement is being reported that you use inappropriate language and behave disrespectfully toward building manager Merritt on September 10th, 2024, which, no, actually, what happened there was I was bringing up the issue of all the lies that he told in such a malicious manner that it was basically a attempt at my life, because getting a final warning of eviction, meaning that he tried getting me kicked out, so his damage report would never let me ever have anywhere to live ever again. No one would ever let me like the rent from them with a damage report stuck on my rental record, meaning that I would be stuck on the street for the rest of my life. And as I said, the streets are a death sentence, meaning that he really wanted to completely destroy my life over asking about the stuff that got stolen, our BC Housing investigation, allowing Alice to come home, which, according to this, she still technically lives here, and getting the toilet to be fixed, which he refused to do for over a month. And in that term, he described a foul odor as in the August 27th, which that's almost a month from then. But first things always. So yeah, like with the previous one, the August 27th one, we're talking about decluttering, clearing. See, I have not seen you decluttering and clear. Well, there was nothing to do. Like, there's so saying compost waste, generic waste, recyclables removed from the floor. It's like compost waste, generic like poop, like and compost. No, like they actually, this is the most insulting lies that anyone could be told. Okay, thinking that I didn't have the capacity to, bring this up with anyone. Also, you should not tamper with electrical receptacles. Again, that had to do with the TELUS. Like apparently it's a strict, thing where TELUS couldn't really screw it in properly. It was just kind of snapped together before. But it says it's a final warning, and this was my first warning ever. So discuss the contents of the letter, please feel free to contact me at 604-631-0346. Michael Hoso. So instead, I brought it up with the BC Housing complaints, which here it says document unreasonable excessive noise disturbance agrees if any occupant excessive noise disturbance the landlord may end tenancy. This includes activity that has likely to adversely affect quiet enjoyment, security, safety, and physical well-being of another. Okay, well, that's what they call the conduct. Wasn't loud or anything, so it seems not applicable. But here it says violence means the attempted or actual exercise by a person other than the worker, and includes any threatening statement or behavior which gives the worker reasonable cause to believe he or she is at risk or of injury. Well, what about the tenant? If they're excluding the worker by saying other than the worker, when talking about violence, meaning attempt or actual exercise of violence by a person, like there's what it says. Right? Violence means attempted or actual exercise by a person other than the worker, meaning that includes any threatening statement of reasonable. So, in other words, they're only going after if a person were to attempt violence or actually exercise it. Because when they say other than the worker, it's like saying the worker's allowed to. Like you're not allowed to. The worker's allowed to exercise attempted or actual exercise of violence and includes threatening statements or behavior. Like, well, for one thing, getting a final warning without any previous warnings, especially built on a pack of lies, that is definitely threat. And I do have physical evidence of it. So, um, after all, and being told that deliberate gestures, comments, questions, like what? Harassment includes questions other than or other behaviors that are reasonable to be known as unwelcome. So, asking a question that is unwelcoming, okay, by recipient which serve no legitimate work-related purpose. So, but okay, serve no legitimate work-related purpose. I mean, if I'm asking about the damage report or the items that were stolen in our which is in the BC housing investigation, well, I'm allowed to ask. Well, I thought maybe they would have some input, but instead they're trying to cover up their theft. They didn't want Alice to come home, so she suffered in a prison-like situation of like total abuse because involuntary means just that. It means slavery. Okay, so by forcing her to remain in involuntary in a hospital, like that's forcing a prison sentence on her. Like so golden rule after all, like when they're actually doing criminal activity and they're forcing a prison sentence on someone who's innocent that they victimized, shouldn't they go to prison themselves and experience the isolation and confinement that they imposed on someone that they had robbed? Think about it. Now, following that letter, I received this other letter, September 24th, 2024. We are writing to address inappropriate messages which have continued to be sent to various staff and departments of BC Housing on September 18th. You are receiving a warning letter regarding your unacceptable conduct towards BC Housing House staff, which from your actions would appear you have not taken seriously. So, hold on. uh, Unacceptable conduct. You received a warning letter regarding unacceptable. Really? So, writing to address inappropriate messages we have continued to be sent to various staff and departments. Yeah, the complaints department. Here it says you, like, well, originally in the original letter it said to, if you wish to discuss the contents of this letter with the tenant's consent, okay. Wish to discuss the contents of the letter with the tenant's consent, please feel free to contact. With the tenant's consent, meaning that is basically admittance that Alice is still a tenant, meaning that discuss it with her consent. So I try that, like discussing it, and I get these letters like where it says you're not to approach or have any contact with Merritt. If you have any further concerns or inquiries, you may submit that to me in writing instead. So here he's asking twice to have me contact him to reply. So when I did so, here it says continue to various staff and departments of BC Housing, writing you are we are writing to address inappropriate messages which have continued to be sent to various staff and departments. No, my messages were explaining what had taken place. And then I get more threatening hate mail like this. You continue to make unsubstantiated allegations concerning property portfolio manager Michael Ho and a building manager supervisor Mike Savick in reference to their roles within BC Housing, which one such email, September 19th, 2000, you said you'd better fire Michael Ho for his compulsive acts of fraud, theft, harassment, slander. You also called our staff feral and vindictive, cocky, sociopathic, narcissistic, and snarky. This language and these messages are disrespectful and have been interpreted as bullying, which we will not tolerate towards us. Well, now they're saying that I'm bullying them when I describe them accurately as being the bullies. This, like when I write to the complaint department and I explain what is going on, then they twist it around, trying to, use it against me when, I have to describe them accurately by saying that they're sociopathic, narcissistic, snarky, smug. They didn't. They didn't put smug in here, but smug was one of the comments I made as well because yeah, they're just so high up on their horse that they're being smug and like snobby and like telling me, oh, take it to court, take it to court. It's like what? Like uh, I'm trying to do this civilly, like talk it out, like get you to give back my stuff. Like I had gotten a what do you call it? A legal advocate to write a letter uh, requesting the return of our stuff, which again he's getting all smug saying take it to court. It's like, man, if we had money for a lawyer, which again they're counting on, seeking out vulnerable, right? Doing this episode. So further, you continue to make threatening, derogatory racial comments towards their ethnicity. More than 20 rude, harassing messages containing various unsupported allegations and racist comments were sent to Michael. Like, no, actually, that's pretty insulting to say that to me. In one message, you alleged Michael Ho is a criminal who probably is a gang member of an Asian gang. Well, I didn't quite word it that way, but yeah, I said that he was acting like an Asian gang member, like to describe him accurately, to like identify him. And by the way, Asian, calling someone Asian, that's not a racial thing because after all, there's Indo-Asians, Oriental Asians, like like one's light skin, the other is like dark brown, like race has got to do with skin tone, doesn't it? Asian covers light skin and dark skin. Okay, uh, it's not like I said Oriental gang, right? If I said Oriental gang, that would probably describe a race, I suppose. Like but Asian doesn't. If someone was to say Caucasian male, age 26, 6'1", right? Is that all of a sudden it said male? That must mean that's sexist. That's a sexist comment because it said Caucasian. That's a racist comment, right? No, that's how we describe to identify someone. Okay, if he didn't want to be identified, so anyone would recognize like who I'm talking about, then yeah, they turn around and start slandering me, calling me racist. When no, besides, I do understand what a racist term is, and never once I say chink gang or Negro or faggot. Like, generally those are three, bad words that, I would not say in a act of hate towards anyone, but to say it to allow you to understand that would be a racist comment, which never once occurred. So there, these allegations of racism are very insulting. In fact, reveal them to be racist. After all, so here it goes on. Criminal gang member, Asian gang. In other words, I'm going to push for deportation, seeing as both parties involved, Mike Savik and Mike Hall, whom I have mentioned, both have very thick accents, and is final proof evidence neither of them was born in Canada. Well, yeah, uh, telling that to uh, the what do you call it? The complaints department. That is, I think, acceptable. Telling them that, like criminals who come to this country from another country get deported back to the country they learn that type of behavior from, because it's not acceptable in this country. That's why criminals who come from other countries, they get sent back to the country they came from. Now, there should be no problem with anyone going back home. Okay, like at least they have a home to go back to. When a damage report that describes the place as being total need of renovation, like to the point of fire damage, that I would never have a home again, meaning living on the street forever, meaning I wouldn't have a home to go back to. However, their home, if they got deported, instead of serving time in a prison around here, which, like I doubt they'd be able to get any work after, it's known that there's some type of predator that, preys on the vulnerable people and, does this type of, activity. Um, Going back home to where your friends and family are seems like the kindest punishment, doesn't it? Because essentially, like you should love your friends and family. Explain that well, over in this country, things like rape are not allowed. You're not allowed to kill someone in the street because you think they have a different religion. Like they try and explain that home. Like over there, they'd all be like, "Whoa, wow, we didn't know." Right? Because obviously, if that's where they learn that type of thing, that's where they should go back to, right? Essentially, you'd imagine. And the only reason why they wouldn't want to, or go back home, or they're afraid of going back home, is possibly they burned every bridge they possibly could and screwed everyone over, and have many enemies back in their home country that they were evading after screwing everyone over, being like that criminal that when they came to this other country, that's they just picked up where they left off and started their crime spree all over again, especially seeking out a retirement home in the poorest part of town that, if you think about it, would be ideal for a predator criminal that seeks out the vulnerable like that, to hoping that the people don't have the capacity to understand exactly what's going on or what to do about it. So I suppose the idea of deportation would greatly make someone shudder at just don't want to get sent back to the place that they had just ruthlessly destroyed every relationship they had over there by burning every bridge and ripping everyone off that they possibly could in a escape attempt to land in another country to continue their crime spree, which they have practiced and gotten so good at. So, yeah, as I said, that here finally have also sent over 80 messages and voicemails to BC Housing Feedback Department in the last 30 days regarding these groundless allegations towards staff, groundless allegations towards staff, groundless allegations towards staff regarding the damage report that that is not groundless allegations. This is facts. They won't even acknowledge like what I'm saying in the BC housing uh, like complaint resolution, which we're supposed to. In fact, these hate mail letters of threats that I keep receiving, founded on lies, which they are the unfounded allegations, considering that the damage report, the guy never took one single photograph of anything because it would discredit him, especially this imaginary fan that does not exist in the kitchen or even in the bathroom. There is no fan that he described which was damaged, meaning the 16 repairs, like everything needed repair according to him, and I had to pay for it. So, yeah, that sticks with me. I'd never get a place to live again, and that essentially, is a attempted murder. Okay, and also, forcing my common law spouse to remain in involuntary detention, they're forcing her to be in prison. Okay, like that's essentially it's a form of prison where they're detained. Like that's detainment means prison, meaning that these people aren't above putting other people in prison and ruining their life, and like they don't even care about the lives of the people that they harm. When they're being paid to be helpful to us, they're supposed to be helpful to the tenants like Alice and myself. They're supposed to make our lives easier. That's what they get paid for, not the opposite of trying to make our lives hell and so difficult and stealing from us, taking from us. Like that's robbing the poorest of the poor, okay? Because we are so below the poverty line that even if we were at the poverty line, that would be poor. That would be like when you compare it, say, to Elon Musk or Paris Hilton or these notable figures that are multi-billionaires. Bill Gates, for instance, has tons of money, but when you're talking about below the poverty line, essentially, yeah, because when our bills are paid and we because our phones actually got stolen along with all our stuff that were left on the table. I was still paying Bell for the phone line up until March. That had to pay off like $800 and all that. Still owed the phone, which again, my phone began getting hacked. It began getting hacked, someone had direct connection to it, meaning that they still had our Apple ID open. Okay, meaning that they're using our device to be able to screw with my new phone, which I got through Bell, which I had to get a new plan and all that, and an iPhone 14 was taken right off of the table, and as well as Alice's ring, which is really heartbreaking because when we had just found, we're out that it was worth a good deal of money. Looking up similar rings, we found a Renaissance ring that was worth $85,000. Not saying that her ring was worth that, but we wanted to get it appraised anyway. Now, since then, looking up online, I found an identical match, meaning could that be actually her ring? Because it was such a unique, vintage, I believe it was Victorian. It may have been Deco, right? I'm not sure, but I did get a screenshot of it, however, and it did look identical. And for the sentimentality, of course, we would want to reacquire it, you know, or have it given back if it hasn't sold yet. And they're actually, they just started selling our stuff now because they were waiting the 1 year statute of limitations on it before unloading our stuff because After all, it's some stuff is very unique and rare, and they probably wouldn't want to immediately get nailed, like they probably hot potato that stuff around. Besides, um, the cameras in um, the the elevator from around that time would have picked up the CCTV. Now, when it comes to a request of CCTV, I tried getting the local police to request the CCTV from the incident which had occurred on September 10th because it actually shows this long haired fellow named Donnie like rushing up to me, threatening me because I was addressing Merritt about his damage reports, telling him that like what is he trying to do? Get me kicked out, And Donnie came up and began freaking out at me because I was saying, look, this is criminal. This is uh, um, I filed with the tenancy branch, and you're going to jail, buddy. Uh, and and Donnie came up to me, threatening me, saying, "How'd you like a punch in the head? You want to get beat up?" Like that's actually physical threats. Because I didn't want to report Donnie and rat him out, right? Didn't feel that what he said really meant anything because I was daring him. I was saying, "Yeah, go ahead, try. You don't even know what I was talking to Mary about. Well, go ahead and try and beat me up. You try and hit me. See what happens to you, okay? Like uh, it, if you're to spit on someone's face or head, you're like spit on someone. That apparently is assault. But when he's talking about a punch in the head or getting beat up, getting my ass kicked, how would you like your ass kicked? He asked me. So it's like all these type of things because I didn't report him to the police. Merritt decided to take advantage of that and try and steal the sympathy that I deserved for being threatened, and tried using it as that I was threatening him when I was the one who got threatened, meaning a by proxy abuse case again, where like I get threatened and then they turn around and say that I was doing the threatening when I was actually bringing up what is with this pack of lies, only designed to be harmful in the worst type of way. It's like an injury that would last a lifetime because essentially I would never be able to live indoors ever again. I'd die on the street because of the lies that he told, which were deadly, deadly. Attempted murder, is exactly what was. So, very criminal. And again, pointing out on this September 24th, this says violence means the attempted or actual exercise by a person other than the worker and includes any threatening statement or behavior which gives a worker reasonable cause to believe he or she is at risk of injury. But it says nothing about the person feeling that they're at reasonable cause to believe that they are at risk of injury. They don't care about the person because, according to this, the violence means an attempted or actual exercise by a person other than the worker, meaning that includes threats of the same, meaning that the violence or attempted actual exercise by a person other than the worker, meaning that they are directing that the violence cannot be done by the tenant or person. However, other than the worker, right? Like violence other than the worker, meaning that the worker is the one who is always going to be the violent one, and it's written that way. It's as some type of confession statement that they permit the people who work here, who are supposed to be helping us, to be violent and threatening towards the person, which essentially is a tenant, right? Now, so, but harassment, including questions, like just even asking a question that seem known as unwelcoming by the recipient and which serves no legitimate work-related purpose. Now, if the question, of course, the question is always going to be work-related. Now, if it comes to asking about, your accent, like it's, where is it from? Like it sounded Russian the first time. Now it sounds German. Now it sounds kind of Croatian French. Like, is it made up? Like, I've heard of this type of thing where, like, say people uh, use fake accents, like say Madonna doing the British accent, right? We've seen it. It's a psychological phenomenon. When I was given anticholinergics, and after getting a head hit, when I had a school play of Hamlet where we were practicing British accents, I actually had a bit of a British accent for some time, which, like people noticed, but I didn't because the anticholinergics caused delirium and hallucinations and all this type of messed up stuff that, my parents had claimed me as suicidal when I had reported them for parental abuse. I was getting beat up, and my stepdad punched me in the back of the head. My friends told me next time that happened to call the police. I did so, and the police came, and he said that if he had punched me, you'd see the mark, but it wasn't in the face; it was in the back of the head. You wouldn't see the mark there. But he's turned around and told cops that I was crazy and suicidal. Well, what, suicidal for calling the cops on him? Like, come on, like, like that would be the only insinuation that, like the cops didn't catch it. If he's claiming that I was suicidal for calling the cops on him, that he was just going to straight up freaking kill me for me calling the cops on him if the cops didn't do anything about it. But, he twisted it around while he's laughing. He's a very social person, like very popular, okay? Like, seriously, like, hand it to him. But he completely lost his mind after his son died, my stepbrother, Luke, in 1995. So, yeah, I was just a teenager at the time, getting, ragdolled around, like the Shiprock was all broken in the hallways because he'd just throw me into the walls and stuff. And like I smacked my head pretty bad on the hearthstone, which was made of marble, like right on the edge. Like, like he was really rough with me. Okay. But still, right? Try and, you know, call the police in, and police never helped. And never in my life have they ever been of any service, but only had worked against me. Where, like, say the parents, make something up. Like when my mom had gotten a divorce from her stepdad, that she had turned around and said that I was going to kill her. And she's been using this lie numerous times, like throughout all my life. Like she'd make this up that I said that I was going to kill her, when in fact she was the one who told me that she was going to kill me. And by saying that she, quote, "I brought you into this world, I can take you out." I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think so. Is what I told her then, and I remember saying that now. But because she threatened my life, then she turned it around and tried telling everyone that I threatened her life. In fact, she had, after getting a divorce because she got pregnant, she got nothing in the divorce. All of her friend circle turned around, called her two-faced and greedy, and she lost all her friends. She had wrote me a letter saying that she didn't like me as a person. She didn't think I deserved any of that money, that I didn't earn it, and all this type of stuff. Then I was confused about this. It's like, what money? What are you talking about? And she claimed that I was going to kill her and had me committed at RCH at that time on heavy duty drugs, which, like I was a zombie for quite some time. It completely ruined my life. But while I was in the RCH, that she had gained guardianship of my home and then sold it and kept 300 grand of it. She sold it before the housing boom for about $451, and had got me a cheap apartment, which was some type of co-op or something, because it only costs about 170 or 140, I believe. The house was originally 170, I believe. But yeah, the apartment, well, when bought, was 170, and I had ICBC money from a hit and run that had stopped my championship run of sports, which would have wound me in UBC, and would have definitely, the scholarships would have paved my career for an early start at life, which would have been full of family love and children, if it wasn't robbed and raped at such a young age that they didn't want me talking anymore. They didn't want me to spill the beans about them. They didn't want me to turn them in for parental abuse. So this continued. And when she had, sold my house, right, on me because she gained guardianship because I was in an institute because she claimed that I was going to kill her. Well, like, was she expecting that if she stole my house that I would try and kill her? Like, for one thing, like, a child does not do that to a maternal parent. And her drunk delirium and gangster ways and all that types of it went to her head. She thought she was the Sopranos because like her husband was a gangster, right? Which, like I said, a very popular person, and I still have respect for him. It's not like I want him to be charged for the child abuse that took place. It's just things have to be addressed, and like, obviously, if I respect him and I still love him for what he taught me, like, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all type of mentality. That he taught me how to be cool. Okay, he taught me how to play pool. He showed me a lot of good things. So I do see positive in everything, even in terms of being Stockholm syndrome, because essentially Alice has the same problem where she has a Stockholm syndrome with her abusive parents, but when they get too controlling, they start ruining lives, and that's how she got put into the hospital. Was they just lied their asses off about her in the most grotesque way, and they did that to me as well, which they haven't cleared our names yet. They still perpetuate this imaginings, this hallucination that we are the way of how they portray us. Which if they want to play at that game, why does Alice's dad look just like Ted Bundy? He's got Vermont accent too, and I heard Ted Bundy, like he won his appeal. Like like he won. If you look at the murder was it murder.com or something regarding Clifford Olson. Like, you can look up Ted Bundy too, and it says that he won every appeal, meaning that even though it said that he was to be executed, he still got off on an appeal. Why? Probably in the Supreme Court and appeals, that you just bring up your inalienable rights, and obviously, like, that would get you out of anything, because your rights are essentially the law that presides over every other law. Now, speaking of appeals, when I had gotten my review panel, and as I had shown you, because I had to get review panel to be able to work, which the tugboats got sabotaged with some type of sugar in the gas tank, and the cylinders had to be replaced. So by the time that the repairs were done, I couldn't go out because I had these court dates that I have to get Alice home safely from the hospital, and I have to get this sorted out of our stuff that got stolen. So essentially, yeah, put that into perspective because these letters, they're threatening letters, and no one should have to deal with this. Like seriously, especially when they're started from asking questions about Alice being able to come home. She's the love of my life. I have no intention of moving on to a new girlfriend. That isn't my thing. She has been the love of my life for many years. Like basically a third, no, like a quarter of my life. Which would equate to the same as her because she's about 30. Went on to 31 when we met, and 31st birthday, and I remember her 33rd birthday when Nancy and Barbara and all them came up, and we went to the movies and all that. Like I remember all of her birthdays. In fact, she got put in the hospital right after her birthday, and we were going to go to the casino on Welfare Wednesday, which was the night that she went out because, like, as soon as we got paid, I was going to McDonald's to get us some food, and she was out in Nicorette, and she's told that her aunt died, and she wanted to go and visit her parents to mourn with them, but they freaked out about a Facebook comment, destroyed her Facebook, and lied about her to the RCMP, using them as a weapon. Whereas when they're being abusive, the RCMP or the police just tell us that it's civil, but they can use the cops as a weapon of abuse towards us. Does not make sense, especially with their perjury calling me a predator and all that type of stuff, having me charged with exploitation, which triggered every cop in the jurisdiction from when I was coming home from Golden for them to make claims of intoxication when I don't drink. I don't drink. And as well, like for one thing, like if they're claiming that I was stoned because I smoked a joint sometime in the past 24 hours, whether it was that night or whatever, still they don't understand that pot is a mind awakening thing like caffeine. That when we're talking about vitamin C, well, limonene terpene is a citric, which is essentially like the ascorbic acid, a citric acid, citrus acids, that citric oil, right? This type of thing that consists of what we consider vitamin C, like ascorbic acid. It would also be when we're talking about vitamin B3, B4. Like B4 is very much structurally like say serotonin or caffeine. So, yes, serotonin and caffeine structurally are very much like because of the ribosulfoxifate section of the corn ring system of cobalamin, vitamin B12, which in our methylation folate cycles, we process our B12 into neurotransmitters and hormones. Neurotransmitters are hormones, but it's go through this metabolic cycle after we are in our digestion extract these vitamins that we metabolize. So not ever was I intoxicated. In fact, when I got the double jeopardy, like they uh, gave me an 8-month suspension and two 1-year suspensions, and then 2 years later called for a court case where even though I paid the tickets and fines and served the suspensions and all that, they tried applying another suspension, and they tried saying the drug test was because I was drinking B12 Happy Planet organic oat milk protein shake for breakfast that day. That they tried saying it was cocaine. And then in court, this is after I already paid the tickets and served the suspensions. Court comes up in a double jeopardy where they're saying that the same drug test reading now doesn't read cocaine. It reads something else. It reads methamphetamine, and it's still the same instant, same date, same uh, drug test apparently. So, meaning that the drug test is totally inaccurate, considering that any drugs consumed would get metabolized, and they are only going on a urea count, which would relate to even if you're drinking enough caffeine, like drinking, a big gulp from 7-Eleven or a couple cups of coffee, like seriously, that would supply a urea count similar, which they can't say is any type of drug at all. Meaning that even when we're talking about a new tropics, which is a performance enhancing, like an ADHD uh, drug, which essentially is a vitamin. It's like that's why it's corrects ADHD, is because vitamin deficiency is ADHD, and getting your vitamin would essentially correct that, meaning that it's not an impairment. Even what they're trying to go after me as, it would not be an impairment. So never once was any of their allegations true. It was because of the lies that were told about me that depicted me as this, described by them, a predator. That they only had started to admit to after they waited 2 years past. That way, there's a statute of limitations that had occurred. Now, this proves that they had just perjury lied about Alice as well, like hallucinating some horrible depiction that was unfitting. Because when they say that she was unsanitary, when she loves just soaking in the tub for hours on end. If it's a hot day, she'll soak in the cool water. If it's a cold day, she'll soak in the hot water. She's the cleanest person in the world. She's the sweetest person, kindest person. And, BCO isn't trying to say that she's not welcome back here. When, according to this, she has never been, never, there was never a delete date. It's null for both of us, meaning that it would say that she had a delete date if, and null for me if she did have delete date. But I believe that the papers that they forced her to sign, making her think that she had, signed a end tenancy, she didn't date, which she has to, and if she doesn't date it, then it is void. Besides the coercion and threats that were involved in the signing of it, when she was under the influence of an anticholinergic, which causes delirium and hallucinations, which is no different than drinking alcohol or doing opiates. Okay, so yeah, and this was done so they could try and get away with theft, theft. Yeah, all of these frauds, things that, and by the way, showing you the physical evidence of threats, showing you the actual, uh, you know, damage reports, like, the difference between the two of them, it's like unbelievable. So, yeah, something has to be done, especially considering that, when we're talking about people who work, government jobs, or for that matter, are not elected government jobs, meaning that are just, like workers that work for a government owned company, doesn't make them the government. Okay, because when they start pulling tyranny, because they think that they have some type of impunity where they can hide behind the name of a company that has earned respect by uh, being a service that helps others, whereas they don't help no one but themselves, and they help themselves to the stuff that is owned by the people they're supposed to help that they're not helping at all. Okay, like that means proceeds of crime for every hour spent at this job that they've worked. Like that means that if they've spent the money that they made last year and the year before while working here, well then. When they do get a job, if they do get a job, that money should be garnished from their pay, so they get like half of their paycheck or more taken from them each time to be able to pay back all of the money that they had spent, that they had earned as proceeds of crime while working a job where they were doing the opposite of what they're being paid by exploiting the tenants instead of helping the tenants, robbing the poorest of the poor, looking for the vulnerable, like is why they got the job, not to be helpful towards these people, but to be just predators themselves. So, yeah, if you want to spot out corruption in government, as well, like a psychological assessment should be practiced for every single person who works in a government position. This includes even postal workers. You heard of the postal worker who came to work one day with a M16 and lit up the place, right? Like we remember that image. The postal, going postal on someone, right? Well, what about the road raging bus driver who's like discriminative and like how they used to send people of darker skin to the back of the bus? That type of discrimination coming from the bus driver still exists. Now, when we're talking about road ragers, like, if say you're waiting for the bus is just pulling up and you're throwing away your smoke and the guy is screaming at you, even though you didn't bring the smoke into the bus at all, right? Being very prejudiced towards, again, like I said, nicotine is vitamin B3. Okay, so and smoking itself is a native spiritual practice, which spiritual practices essentially, that's customaries. Like that's and customaries and spiritual. That's what we consider religion. Even if natives don't want to call it religion, spirituality is kind of what they lean towards, and that's what the smoking is essentially, this religious spirituality, because it's a practice of their medicine and peace pipe traditions, which are social. It's more a yeah, it's how their spirituality is, which it's a social spirituality of telling stories and entertaining and teaching and like identifying, much like how church is when we're talking scriptures and relaying it to the issues that we have in our everyday. So essentially, when we're talking about all the no smoking signs and all that type of stuff, where smoking doesn't cause cancer. Nicotine actually, like vitamin B3, is preventative of cancer. It helps your immune system. Obviously, it doesn't deplete your immune system like the lack of would in vitamin deficiency shows. So, um, yeah, just having to deal with this, uh, when we should all know the truth instead of being lied to, because smoking doesn't cause cancer. Anticholinergics cause cancer. A compromised immune system where your immune system can't fight off a neoplasm, that essentially is how cancer occurs. And when we're talking about chemotherapy causing a granulocytosis, meaning it greatly affects your immune system, and thereby, yes, it causes the cancer. Like the treatments cause cancer, meaning that the medical profession has been total Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Okay, and this relates to the hallmarks of cancer, which was a sales pitch on how to cultivate a neoplasm, and I'm sure that that it's teaches people how to create their industry by enslaving people with the lies that they tell them, saying that you know that you have to take this anticholinergic, and whatever reason, it depletes your immune system. Then they turn around and say that you either have AIDS if they don't like you and they don't want you to ever enjoy the pleasure of sex again, or be able to experience love. That's how loveless and hate filled. This is like the art of hate making, actually, because love making creates life, while hate making takes life and is murder. Love making creates babies. So that's the difference between love and hate. Okay, because love is God. Is not like if we're to call God love, like it's the same word. It's like how non-consensual and involuntary are the same word, basically, because involuntary means it's what you don't want. It's everything you don't want. If you wanted it, it would be voluntary. That's why we call it slavery, because you're forced to do something you don't want to do. You're not getting paid for it, and there's no benefit to you whatsoever. You're being forced. Men being forced sex is non-consensual, and that's what we define rape. And when we talk about slavery, rape, involuntary, and non-consensual, those essentially are the same word. Now, because of the same meaning, okay, just like love and God. If someone was to, say, like they were to exclaim that they are God, and it freaks out the atheists so bad that they have to report it to the police that this person's lost their mind. Whereas if the person were to exclaim that they are love, would an atheist or would a hater turn around and try and mock them and say that they're gay, like a homophobe would? Okay, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I mean. This is exactly what we're dealing with here, because essentially, yeah, if we don't sort out these issues, because when you have a bus driver who, you know, threatens the passengers with discrimination comments, which like we all know about the bus driver in the back of the bus for the dark-skinned fellows, right? Don't we? Like, yeah, discrimination in bus drivers. Uh, it's very, very ingrained in everyone's mind about being forced to sit on the back of the bus. Now, when we're talking about road ragers and bus drivers, okay, now we're seeing that these bus drivers definitely need to have psychological assessments, just like anyone that say most of the cops become cops because they want to be champions of the charter. They want to protect their home and family, their friends and neighbors. They want to do what's right in all causes, be the example of how to follow the law. Then there are the criminals that take the job as police officers only so they can commit crimes and get away with committing these crimes, because they hide behind the company and hide behind the shield and try and, because the good cops that are not criminals, and they also exercise the right of innocence. So they would, and the criminals would not let on to these good cops that they are up to this type of stuff, obviously. So the good cops would presume right of innocence and say, no, 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 my friend here is not doing the stuff that you're saying, even though the corrupt cop, which is a personality disorder, which if had a psychological assessment, we would not see crooked cops who beat up people over vitamins, or if they're in a compromised state from an anticholinergic such as an opiate, they would not, like, or drunk for that matter, lay steel toe boots to them like they did to my cousin Mitchell Joseph, who needed eye surgery because he got kicked in the head so hard it collapsed his eye socket, causing a tumor to happen behind the eye, which again, like I said, compromised immune system is the only way that neoplasm could ever cultivate like that. So if he was so injured that it caused the compromised nervous network, which allowed the you know neoplasm to grow. He's had his surgery, and I'm hoping to hear back from him that he's doing all right. But just for instance, all of the people who want to have a job where it's government secure like that, where it's pretty easy job because essentially if you're talking about say Michael Hohen, the property portfolio manager position where he's getting paid for like a full salary and all that type of stuff to do what, to file maybe one or two tenancy people don't just move into this place like every month either, so it's very rare. In fact, for someone to have that job, like you'd probably only need one person doing that job, covering like all of the buildings. Because even if they were, like covered all of the BC housing, like all across the province, like all the way into Kelowna and all that, like they had to drive out there type of thing, then still like that would be the only way the job would be a full pay, a full day's pay each day. Essentially, having more than one property portfolio manager, even for same building, they do nothing. They do nothing. Uh, Whereas, how much are they getting paid? This is coming out of our economy, of our treasury, and when they are not even, being polite, helpful, or courteous to the tenants that they're supposed to be assisting, and they're doing everything the opposite and robbing from the tenants that they're supposed to be helping and trying to ruin their lives and completely destroy their housing credit, like with lies, so they could get away with mere theft, which is it's essentially murder, and disallowing common law spouse to come out, like they're trying to rip apart our relationship, like like how, like they hate love that much that they're jealous of our loving relationship. Like, think about it, and that they keep her imprisoned. Like, like that'd be like if they went to jail and then, like they could be out of jail and, but no, they get held for another half a year. Or now it's been longer than that. Like, being sentenced to a year in prison and then you get held back another year because just because an arrogant, cocky, smug Asian gangster want to wave his dick around a little bit more and rub it in my face, thinking that I didn't have the capacity to speak up and describe what exactly has been taking place, especially when I get the records here, and apparently, yeah, she's still here because according to this, until she were to get her a different housing, then she's still technically a tenant here. Okay, so yeah, lots of criminality. So Hazard, yeah, issue to the government, especially when the anticholinergics and the medical thing. Like, yeah, I actually had already filed with the International Criminal Courts, the Office of the Prosecutor, uh, Karim, AA, CAN, KC, in regards to the hundreds of millions of deaths. Especially when looking at 130 some odd HIV deaths and 10 million a year cancer deaths. Like, just equate that over the past since Terry Fox, like, like, okay, 40 times, so 400 million deaths right there. Like, come on, that's since Terry Fox. So, yeah. Well, if we're going to date it back to Dr. Warburg, who got the Nobel Prize for hallmarks of cancer in the Great Depression when Germany was completely, like broke, that, his breakthrough paper basically taught them how to create an industry so that they would bounce back and be successful, but however, it included enslaving people to be killed. In other words, the medical aspect was the actual Nazi army, okay? Because, like, along with the Nobel Prize came a million gold standard Swedish payment, which, when we're talking about 1,000 like Reichsmark uh, being defunded, which 1,000 Reichsmark would have been a year's salary, which even nowadays you could find for like $2, $2 euro, or like maybe $3 online on eBay for 1910, 1,000, which would have been a year's pay back then, which still is completely defunded because they lost the First World War. That was the cost of the war, meaning they had no money for a military until this Dr. Warburg devised a plan to, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a industry from injuring other people, just like if the war was continuing on. That, of course, we all had medical science, we all did, but when things began getting twisted around and nicotine being called a drug of abuse or whatever, right? When it's actually a vital vitamin that we need. Whereas, then the anticholinergics, which stop the vitamin uptake, ripping out your immune system, compromising your immune system, and destroying your nervous system, and it affects your respiratory system, your lymphatic system. In fact, compromised immune system causes the lymphoma, which you see as lymphatic cancer and neoplasm tumors. So yeah, let's sort this out, okay? Because I believe that education, we can all learn medical science properly, be able to wrap a plaster cast on our children or our brothers and sisters or our parents, our neighbors, our friends, our family. We all know this type of medical knowledge where we all get trained how to do CPR in early grade school level, and the people nowadays that have not got that type of education be given the option that look, like it's basic education, go back to school, like night school, for instance. We don't have to be all going to the 8 to 3 o'clock parameter that we know grade kindergarten to grade 12 to be, but just like psychology taking over psychiatry, where psychology is purely educational, have these educational programs like anger management or associative memory, where, like when we think three, we think triangle or triceratops, right? Uh, don't we? Like, threes, right? We think triangle. So essentially, when talking about the associative mind, how we like in psychology, once bitten, twice shy. Okay, meaning that the origins of contempt. It's kind of like if someone has been treated with prejudice all their life, like like they think that everyone is going to be prejudiced towards them when even if that's not the case, they are kind of instigating it by their contempt by saying that someone's prejudiced when it's like, no, not at all. Okay, like that type of thing is kind of an inverted racism where they accuse people of being racist when it's not the case. The accusing of being racist is uh, just as bad as actually being racist towards someone. but it is in associative thinking that once bitten, twice shy. If they had been treated that way previously, they may think that everyone is going to treat them that way, and that is contempt. And we don't want people thinking that every police officer is crooked either. Police officers are public service. They're service to the public, meaning they're there to help. They're not there to hurt you. And like when BC Housing is had like predators, like scammer to the uh, job placement of having the most vulnerable people in the poorest part of town in a retirement home where they thought that they have a smorgasbord, it'd be just so easy for them to take advantage of everyone in this building that they'd pick that job. Well, not every BC housing worker would be that type of person, because a lot of times if they're in a position where they want to help people. They have compassion. They're out there to try and make lives better. That they obviously don't want criminals that have taken the job only to take advantage of the vulnerable people that they wish to help. That take advantage and then hide behind the company, so the company takes the brunt of it and they get away with murder. The people that are making the good people look bad. This is why psychological assessments have to be done for every government worker in every position, because we can't have these type of abuses. When we're talking about institutional abuse, like Paris Hilton has been dealing with, where teachers were abusive, then again, yes, so the students don't get abused and traumatized, because once bitten, twice shy. Okay? Meaning that they all have to have psychological assessments because of the personality disorders that we are finding, like the postal postman with the machine gun, right? Showing up, shooting up the place, or the racist bus driver who's road raging, like you're driving around all herky jerky. People are flying around like grannies, literally get hurled to the front of the bus, hit their head, and die because the bus driver is an aggressive driver because he's road raging. These personality disorders have to be dealt with, like the psychiatrist who gets people sick with varnish called diprovoic acid, which causes seizures and stuff like that. Getting people sick, so their nervous systems get destroyed, and then they get called schizophrenic because they're hallucinating because of what they just got induced illness by. These personality disorders have to be dealt with and sorted out in the most educational way, because psychology is education after all. And when we're talking about the psychology of religions, then we begin to understand the golden rule is one of every religion. Every religion is based on the golden rule in some way or another, whether it's the balance of Taoism, which means equality between everyone, whereas a golden rule in terms of the Islamic would be like an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, or to see eye to eye and to share a truth for truth, uh, whichever way you want to see it. Because in Christianity, our golden rule is to love thy neighbor as much as you love yourself. Okay? Love everyone as much as you love. And if you're hating on the people around you, well, essentially, is it you that you actually hate? Is the psychology of it, okay? Because by calling other people racist, when that's not the case at all. I happen to love culture, okay? And, just by pointing out he's acting like an Asian gang member, well, that is not racist, because Asian, it describes both Oriental and Indo. Like Indo, Indo is like India, right? That's not the same like skin tone as say Japan. It's still Asia, right? If skin tone happens to be what you consider race, like you're either like the Oriental race or the Indo-Asian race, Oriental Asian or Indo-Asian. Those are two different types of, and by separating the two, then you see what a race is. Because by saying Caucasian, I guess that selectively means the European. But since when is saying Caucasian male, right, uh, ever been considered racist and sexist at the same time? So see how they've weaponized their delirium.